In this episode of Commercial Kitchen Chronicles, we're going to talk about True ice machines with very special guest Stephanie Wall from True. This episode is brought to you by True Tech Tools. Are you looking for top quality HVACR tools? True Tech Tools is here to help. From instruments to hand tools, in stock and shipped fast. They have you covered to get the job done right. Visit TrueTechTools.com. Quality tools, essential support. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Commercial Kitchen Chronicles. And today I have very special guest, Stephanie Wall. Stephanie is with the True Refrigeration Company, and more specifically, True Ice. And I've been trying to get them on here for a long time, and I'm really excited to have her on. I've spoke to her a couple times. I met her in person a couple weeks ago, and I spent a lot of time checking out the machines in the booth, and those things are phenomenal. So, hello, Stephanie. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you, Pat?
I am tired. My February was a whirlwind of trade shows and conventions, and I'm paying for it now that I'm back to work the last week and this week. So it is what it is. I enjoy what I do, and I enjoy work. Just when you don't work and you come back and you're working like 70 hours in a week, it's just kind of a big adjustment to get used to. But I'll get back in the swing of things.
Oh, yes.
So I have been seeing these ice machines. First time I think I've seen or heard about it about 4 or 5 years ago. Someone hinted around about it, like a test unit somewhere, and they didn't have no pictures or any images of it or anything, but they hinted around about it. And then all of a sudden I seen them pop up at maybe a trade show a year or two ago. And I was just blown away by these. So let's just get into it. How long have you guys been working on these ice machines?
Yeah. So funny that you say that, because I've been in the ice machine business for a long time, and I started seeing True hiring ice machine engineers. And I was thinking, what's going on over there? So I know that they've been working on this project for a very long time. They started putting units out in the field on test probably 4 years ago. And we've been doing a lot of testing since. And we launched the US the first of last year, and then followed Canada after, and then Latin America. And so we're going to be moving into Europe, Middle East, the end of this year. So very exciting, lots of testing that's gone on, and lots of great stories.
Yeah, True is, when you think of top tier refrigeration equipment, you think of True. I mean, it's a family owned company. They stand behind their equipment. I mean, they have probably the best warranty in the industry, I believe. So this wasn't rushed. I mean, they did a ton of homework behind it. And that's what we want to talk about. It's like, this has been an ongoing project for years and years and years. And I've seen these firsthand at the trade shows. I haven't seen one in the field yet. But just the engineering that goes behind these is pretty impressive.
Yeah, you know what, Pat? What I love is that the engineering team that True has had for the ice machines, these are engineers that have been in the ice machine side of the industry for a long time. So they know what works in ice machines, and they know where the challenges are, and they addressed all of that. And so, thinking about some of it, one of the big issues with ice machines is water, right? Because water's corrosive. Anything that water touches is a problem. And I always joke, and I can say this because I have family that lives in Texas, but I always say that they chew on their water in Texas. They don't drink it because it's so hard with minerals. And so, when you look at ice machines, there's always challenges in hard water areas, and our engineering team addressed that. So down to the sump. The sump is gravity drain. That's one thing. We're not using our pump. The other thing is our water sensor in the sump is we're reading pressure. So even if that component were to build up with scale, it's not affected by scale because we're still reading pressure. We're not using floats or sensors in the water. That's, a small piece of the big story, but it's a huge issue for people. It's a challenge every day. So that's one of the things. The other is I believe that True was the first manufacturer that really introduced R290 into the industry in the US in a big way.
Mm-hmm.
And so, looking at all of the mandates on refrigeration that are coming for ice machines in the next few years, all of our units are charged with R290. And that's obviously a very efficient refrigerant. And you take that with our patented evaporator plate, the True Encapsulate plate,
Mm-hmm.
and what we're doing with that evaporator is we completely insulated the backside of the plate. So when you look at the backside, it's actually thicker than the front.
Mm-hmm.
You take that insulation and the R290, we get that plate cold quick and we can get the ice off the plate quickly. That's one of the big challenges for engineers in creating an ice machine is not freezing water, but getting the ice off the evaporator, right? And
Mm-hmm.
because of that R290 and that insulated plate, we don't need harvest assist. So with that, we get the ice off the plate quicker without assist. And then what that equates to is better energy efficiency. When we talk about the energy efficiency with this machine, we're up to 37%. I think it's 37% below Energy Star standards. So while we don't have a full product offering today, all of our units meet Energy Star standards and are well below the standards. So when you take that, the efficiency that we get compared to all of our competitors is pretty extreme. We've got a lot of chains that we are testing with, and the store energy efficiency, every chain has a
Mm-hmm.
different layout and they use ice differently, but we've got stories where we're saving customers $90,000 a year in utility bills, or if their entire system had true ice machines, we could save them up to $2.3 million a year in utility bills. So that points back to the efficiency of our cycle times. And with that, shorter cycle times, shorter harvest times, our recovery is so fast that in many cases, customers are seeing where they don't need the size ice machines they've been purchasing for a long time.
Yeah, these I played around with a little bit, at the show, and I forget who I was talking to for, but he walked me through everything on it, showed me everything, and that thing is really amazing. Showed me how to strip it down, tear it apart, and the components are, I've worked on a lot of different ice machines, and those are some of the thickest, distribution distribution pieces. The tank is, the trough is really solid. Like that stuff is well made. It's thick. It's rigid. It's not flimsy. Some of those you go to, pull a trough out and you think you're going to break it. It's bending and it's like, holy cow! You grab a hold of that one and you can pull on it. Like, oh, okay. You're not scared to tear it apart. So this
Yeah.
quality behind it, 100% is phenomenal.
Yeah, you're you saying that I'm with you from prior lives and just the plastics and stuff
Hmm.
down to that. And all of those plastics, Pat, inside the machine are all injected with antimicrobial. And the other thing that we do is we inject antimicrobial into our bin liners as well. So while those bins have magnetic scoops, nice side feature, but that scoops will um, connect to the outside or the inside of the bin, along with the slow close hinge. We also have that antimicrobial in the bin liner, which
That
is an
is,
important thing.
oh yeah. I mean, it's gonna keep your ice machine cleaner, keep bacteria and stuff from growing, but it's also gonna make it easier to clean if you do have to clean it. Um, that's really good. That's really cool. It's in there. I noticed that slow close hinge on that lid when I was at the show. I mean, I've been in the hundreds of kitchens. And you can always tell when they close that ice machine because that lid slams and it scares everybody half to death in the kitchen, especially
Yeah.
if it's nice and quiet first thing in the morning. So I can appreciate a slow close hinge, especially, I've had some fall on my hands when I've been in there digging stuff out. And yeah, I can appreciate that.
Yes, I remember as a youngster in the industry when those metal bin doors would hit me in the back of the head.
Those things are heavy too. That
Oh,
big
yeah,
heavy plastic liner, that metal, yeah, those things are a nightmare. So
for
that's
sure.
a great feature.
Yeah, so, something else that was just coming up for me that is unique in the ice machine world is a component that is called time of flight, and it's the
Hmm.
name of the technology, but it's manufactured into every single machine that we make. And what it's doing, without getting technical, it's sending a photon, but let's just go with a laser, sending a laser down and back up. And whatever that time of flight is, down and back to the component, it's reading how much ice is in the bin or dispenser. And what's been really interesting with that is that from the front of the ice machine or remotely, we can see exactly how the ice is being used. So the customer can go to the front of the machine and, because of this technology, see how they're using the ice. The other thing that's been a benefit is ice machines that are going on top of drink dispensers. You have to typically order an internal component or adapter to control the ice level in the dispenser. With this time of flight, you can control the ice in the bin or dispenser. So you don't need bin thermostats and all of that. That's also been huge. And it's that component that's allowed us to show customers exactly how they're using the ice. So in some cases, I'll use a dispenser application as the example. You've got a dispenser in a quick service restaurant, and they're using a ton of ice between 11 and 1.
Hmm.
And everybody keeps hitting that drink dispenser. And so, depending on your cycle times, you need to make sure you keep ice in that dispenser, that small storage area. So some manufacturers may oversize their ice machine to make sure that during that busy time, they can keep that dispenser full. What we've been showing customers with that time of flight, how they're using the ice, and with our short cycle times, we're keeping ice in that dispenser when they need it. So maybe there's a 600 pounder on that dispenser when in fact they only go through 300 pounds a day, or 400. So that's been a huge benefit with that time of flight component.
Yeah,
We've
that was pretty cool. He was explaining to me how that worked, and he said the same exact thing about you can track high use, high demand times, and you can see what your application really needs to be. Because yeah, like you said, you know a lot of these bins or dispensers have a 600-pound machine on them when they really only need 300 or 400 pounds, but they just have to fight that heavy demand times. So
Yeah, and another thing that was just coming up for me, Pat, with what you were saying is there's a chain that we started testing with a few years ago, and they have typically two large ice machine heads, 1,400 pounds, on a large Follett bin, and they're remote. And right now, our cooled and moving into water. Remote for us will be a different story because obviously the charge with R290. But back to these two ice machines on a large Follett, this chain wanted to test with us. And I said, listen, we don't have that much ice for you right now. But I'd be willing to put two of our 800s in just to see,
mhm.
knowing that it might not be enough ice for them. And we're also putting air cooled machines in where they had remote. So here was the application. We take the two ice machines off in a hot kitchen, actually in Texas, put two 800-pound air cooled heads on in this cove area. And we start watching that time of flight. The customer starts watching it, right?
Mhm.
And I told him, I said, hey, it may not work don't want a black eye over this if the production's not enough. And I'll tell you this, watching this for the last year and a few months, their bin never gets below, I don't know, 40, 50%. And it's only done that a couple of times. Otherwise, we're keeping ice pretty steady at about 67% of a full bin. And we're giving them half the ice. Air-cooled units. And with everything we've already talked about, the heater rejection is so much lower than our competitors that we've been replacing a lot of remotes with air-cooled and no issues.
That's really cool. That's really phenomenal because, those units, we've all seen ice machines stuck in coves and they're always remote condensed because, it's circulating hot air back there. But if you're doing that with a smaller machine and air cooled versus remote, that's pretty cool to do. So
Right?
that's pretty awesome. That's pretty stellar output you guys have there. And, I was able to watch that machine run at the show, and I think it was like I know the harvest was under a minute.
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember what the freeze time was. I think the total cycle time was like 12 minutes or something, or 12 and a half minutes. And that's hauling butt on an ice machine. And I think that was a 400 or 500 pound machine you guys had there. So that thing was kicking butt. So I could see 800-pound machine putting out a ton of ice.
Oh, yeah. And you know what, Pat, to that, so obviously cycle times for all of us
Yep.
are different based off the model.
Yep.
I'll tell you, in this application where I was saying we put the two 800s air cooled, kitchen does get warm,
Yep.
right? And then it is two air cooled machines. But listen to this. Certain times, because we're reading temperatures on the ambient air and the water temp, ambient air around the machines, let's go with 98 degrees, incoming water, at some times 83, 86 degrees. Our cycle times on those 800s with those conditions, we're dropping ice in 9.5 minutes.
Holy cow.
Right? And
That is absolutely insane.
yeah, and I don't know if you saw that video, Roadkill Grill in Las Vegas.
I didn't see that.
So Roadkill Grill is a restaurant that's been in Vegas for a long, long time.
Mm-hmm.
They do a lot of barbecue and outside cooking. So they've got an ice machine that sits outside just under an awning,
Mm-hmm.
and they use that ice to ice down food before they put it into the refrigerator.
Yep.
And I'll just say there have been several brands of ice machines in there, and dead of summer in Vegas when it's, I don't even know, 120 degrees, ice machines aren't working, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's ice machine.
Mm-hmm.
And so we put a unit in on test there over a year and a half ago and told the service company, whatever happens with this machine, call us. And we got the call. And it was a Saturday. And of course, it's all hands on deck. What's wrong?
Mm-hmm.
What's wrong? And he said, nothing's wrong other than it's 118 degrees outside and the incoming water to your machine's 111 degrees, and you guys are still pumping out ice in 15 minutes.
It just got slow because it was that hot. That's wild.
Right? Yeah.
That is wild.
Yeah. It's crazy.
So I was looking at some of the stuff you sent over, and it talks about ambient temperatures. And what's the ambient temperature rating for the room for your guys' ice machines? I think it said 35 to 110.
Yes.
That's a pretty wide swing.
Yes.
I know I've dealt with a lot of other ice machines, and when they get down to cold like that on an air cooled machine, not remote. Remote's a different animal. They have headmasters, everything else. They can kind of battle that temperature swing, but that's pretty wild. 35 to 110, and just keep pumping out ice.
Yeah. And you know what? To that Roadkill Grill, obviously outside, and it is
Mm-hmm.
desert. So in the wintertime, it gets cold,
Mm-hmm.
and the machine's still going. So I think when you look at the ambient range,
Mm-hmm.
I think ours is the broadest out of all the others.
Yeah, I was impressed because I wish I remember his name. I'm terrible with names. I wanted to record him, and he didn't want to be recorded, so he was talking about stuff. But um, now, do your are your condenser fans variable speed, or
Yes.
so that's how they're achieving the temperature swings? And okay,
Yep,
so,
exactly. And most of the time, those fans are in low mode
yeah.
most all the time.
Well, for anyone who doesn't know, these machines have a display on them, and it literally tells you every bit of information you could ever ask for and more when it's running.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that's something, Pat, that the engineering team, they looked at when they were creating that,
Hmm.
who's standing in front of the machine and how can we make it as easy as possible for cleaning, maintenance, diagnosing an issue. And, as easy as walking up to the machine, which I think you probably went through, and the push of a button, and right then you can see the last five freeze cycle times and the last five harvest times. So you don't ever have to time anything out. And the other thing is because we use pressure transducers, you can walk right up again and tap on the display and it'll show you the high and low pressures. And remotely, you can even see that over days, weeks, or the life of the machine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
there you go.
there's a picture of the display, and it's wild how many features are on there.
Right.
And you can hit the over button. You can get into more detailed, like you said, the last 5 cycles. I was really excited about that because as a technician, you show up, and the machine's acting up or whatever. You can go look at that. You can say, "Oh, I'm trending long. I'm trending long. I'm trending long," or "Okay, it did this. Okay, it did that." Um, and that's really valuable information to the technician. When you show up, time is money. We all know that mantra. I mean, it is what it is. And to
Right.
be able to see trends with that machine, it's going to help you paint that picture of what's going on.
Exactly. And it's right there. So that if you need to talk the customer through something,
Hmm.
it's right there.
Yep. And he pointed out freeze up issues. So if this machine does have a freeze up issue, it goes through a startup process where you can turn it off and back on, and actually will thaw itself off and is looking for a certain temperature on that ice plate to know that that plate is clear. And I thought that was great because I've never worked on one of your units, but I've worked on tons of ice machines where it just freezes up. I had one last Friday where I'm just running water through this thing for 2 hours to get the ice off of it.
Yeah. You know, I don't know if you can pull that display back up,
Yep.
but again, to what you're saying, you can look at all of this and then go back into the system to see even more detail
Hmm.
from your computer. So again, it's easy to diagnose. And you know what I always have said since I started with True and seeing all this allows you predictive and
Hmm.
proactive, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's right here in front of the machine or down the road remotely from your computer or your phone.
I was just looking. This has to be that roadkill grill because air temperature is 118, water temperature is 111.
It is.
So
And
this is like a worst case scenario, and this thing's just chugging along.
oh yeah. And you know what's funny about this is they they called when the machine went down
Hmm.
um, on the ambient air. It stopped at 124 degrees. I said, "Hey, we're good."
Yeah, nobody's ice machine is going to run at this temperature. We'll be all right. It was
Oh
we're making.
yeah.
If we're down to 15 to 18 minutes at that temperature, I'll take it all day long.
Right? Yeah.
So, I know a lot of other manufacturers offer like an ozone or some sort of other system to help eliminate bacteria growth. Do you guys offer anything along those lines?
Yeah, so we offer TrueZone,
Hmm.
and it is an ozone component that's mounted inside of our machine. And these units can be ordered with or without. We have inventory of both. But yes, we have that available. And what we're doing with that is we're pulling air from the bin through that component inside the ice machine head and then out over the top and over the food zone area back through to the bin.
That's a really cool feature. I see a lot of other companies, put some stuff out there. There's lights, there's everything else, and ozone. It's been around for years and years and years, and I know it from the hunting industry. They use it to kill bacteria in your clothes, so you don't smell when you go out to hunt. So
Oh,
so that's where I first seen it, and then I started seeing it in ice machines and other applications in kitchens. I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. It does a really good job of killing bacteria and different things. So
yeah.
cool to see that more and more companies are getting on board with it, using it for this kind of application.
Yeah, I think we all agree today that ice is food,
Oh yeah, that's
right?
huge. That's the first thing I tell people when I start working on ice machines. Um, I was doing that machine that was froze up last week. We had to be there thawing it out. We had the cover off, and I looked over, and Board of Health walked in. I was like, "Put that cover on now!" And luckily, we are the back of the house, so this machine actually isn't used for drinks or food. It's used to cool bags of product. They make the product, they put it in bags, and they just soak it in the ice and get it down temperature before they put it in the cooler. So this ice isn't being eaten, but you still got to make sure it's ice is food, like you said. So
Yeah,
and
for sure. Well, I was just thinking of something else with us talking about ice as food. So our evaporator plate, which you showed, and it's insulated on the back, but it's also sealed. And True will talk about a sanitary evaporator plate. And what we're referring to is the backside of that plate is completely sealed off.
mhm,
So when you go into some ice machines, you can put your hand behind the plate and you can actually feel the backside of the evaporator. And
mhm,
depending on where that ice machine is sitting, if it's in an area where there's a lot of yeast,
mhm,
the nasty stuff that's growing in a machine that we've all seen in any machine,
mhm.
is also growing behind evaporator plates, right? But you can't
Yeah,
see that,
you can't clean it unless you pull the evaporator plate, and then it's some of them are impossible to pull. So
right?
I mean, yeah, you do your best to clean what you can see, but yeah, if your system's sealed and you can't get anything behind there, it's even better.
Yeah, exactly. And that goes back to one of the things that the engineers knew is an issue, right? And so they addressed that, just like the gravity drain sump.
So another thing I noticed for your machines is serviceability. They seem everything's pretty open and pretty easy to get to. You can get behind the evaporator plates, to anything serviceable back there. There's some little panels you can pop off and reach back in there. There's plenty of room to get to fans, compressors. Everything is packaged really well and looks really service friendly.
Yeah, whenever we talk about easy to access the machine, the first thing that comes to my mind is a 22-inch wide machine
Yeah.
because it's virtually impossible,
Hmm.
right? And you guys have to be like gymnasts to be able to work on those. But yes, so with the 22-inch, we're putting a lot in a small space, but the 30-inch and the 22 is the same. It's semi compartmentalized,
Hmm.
but yes, the 30 definitely easy to access the parts and the water pump.
Yeah. No one that makes a 22-inch machine is going to be easy to work in. It's just what it is. It's so much
Right.
stuff crammed in a little bit edge, and I think anybody in the industry understands that. So we're not faulting anybody for that one.
Yeah, for sure. And the other thing you had mentioned are plastics.
Hmm.
And I did want to point out, which you've done, but when you pull that water distribution tube out, and lots of people, I shouldn't say lots, but there are a couple of manufacturers that have the removable water distribution
Hmm.
pieces without tools. But ours is literally just one piece and it's thick, like you said,
Hmm.
thick plastic, and it snaps in. There's no O-rings that need to be addressed, not double parts or whatever. So, um, again, just tried to make it easy, but make it durable as well.
Yeah, yeah. I was like I said, I was. He handed me those pieces, and I was like, "Holy cow!" I was like, "I don't have to worry about breaking these. I can run these through the dish machine. I can put them in the sink to soak. I don't have to worry about them." Um,
Right.
I look at some bad, and I think they're going to break. So,
Oh yeah. Well, and a lot of the stuff going on in our machine, you really do have to touch it and see it.
Hmm.
to know, right? And so we've been doing a lot of service schools around the country, just to get people in front of the machine.
Hmm. Yeah. So I want to get back to the R290 thing. You brought up some great points about that. You said, True looked forward to the future instead of, okay, we can use this refrigerant now. We can use this refrigerant in 10 years. You True as a company just said, we're not going to step. We're just going to get to where we need to be ahead of everybody else and just be there and let everybody else catch up to us. And I love that aspect of it because um, R290 kind of has a bad stigma because of what it is, but it's huge. It's popular. It's been out in Europe for, I think, like 25, 30 years.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
it's been heavily used here the last 10 to 12 years and in America. And I've seen some ice machines that are like 410A or whatever. And I was like, this is kind of weird, but it was only natural. As soon as the first time I seen that, it said R290, I was like, oh, I was intrigued because the ice production that True is getting out of what it was 150 grams or whatever before. I
Yeah.
mean, you guys were cranking out some serious amounts of ice in a very little amount of refrigerant.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Which that's increased recently in the
Hmm.
US. So with that, right now, our product offerings, and I always say series, I don't say a 500 pounder or 600
Yeah.
pounder, just because the cycle times, the recovery, when our team's out in the field, we don't get stuck on the model number. But with that, we've got, the 4, 5, and 600 series machines and 22 and 30-inch cabinet. The 800 series is out this month, and then we're moving into 1,000 in both cabinets. And what's interesting is with that increase in R290, we were already planning on some larger units, but now we're going to keep going up, right?
The sky's the
So
limit.
13, 15, whatever. Really exciting times.
So filtration, does True offer any filtration or recommend any filtration for these units, or do you want like a water sample from the area it's getting installed in?
So that's a good question. We have our own water filters
Hmm.
that are branded for True,
Okay.
and I'll say a couple of things on that. One, our standard filters have a built-in pre-filter membrane in them, so they're a little more robust than a regular filter. The other thing is that board is reading how many gallons of water are going through the filter. So whether the customer's using our filter or their own filter, it doesn't matter to us. But whatever they're using, that machine's actually counting how many gallons of water are going through the filter. So it's not based off of time, like every 3 months, 6 months, or
Hmm.
whatever. So they're actually getting the full life out of the filter cartridge itself. And so you'll notice that on our filters, we don't have gauges because of that board reading the exact gallon usage.
That's a really great feature. Like you said, it's going to save money on filters. I mean, some companies are just proactive and they change it every 3 to 6 months. You hope. Um, I've seen some where they don't change it until the water stops flowing, and
Right.
um, everybody does things differently. But if you if True can count the water coming in and say, "Hey, let's change this filter," then that's really a cost savings for the end user, I believe.
Yeah, for sure. And, there's that. So we notify through the front of the machine that the filter needs to be replaced. The other thing is we're also, when somebody's using the TrueZone, that ozone device, we're also counting the life on that UV bulb. And so also notify the customer when that bulb needs to be replaced as well.
Man, True's thought of it all here.
Yeah. It's a smart ice machine for sure, but at the same time, while it's smart, it's simple as
Hmm.
well.
Yeah, I'll put some videos in here that I took from Matt Natham a couple weeks ago, just to kind of highlight some of the stuff I've seen. Now, I will warn you, they do not come standard with cutaway panels with plexiglass and lights in there. Sorry, guys, but that is not an option for our kitchen. But they are cool to see. But it shows off some of the pieces and components in there. So I'll put some videos in showing some of that stuff off. Um, but there really are. They have me intrigued. I think there's some training coming up at the end of the month I'm trying to get into, so I can see them, get some more hands-on stuff, and get more involved with them. Um, True, I've worked on True for the last. I've been doing refrigeration coming up on 17 years, and I absolutely love the equipment. Um, if I ever have problems, tech support always does a real good job explaining or helping me out. They stand behind their products with a warranty. And let's talk about the warranty real quick. Do you have that information? We can talk about the warranty on the ice machines.
Sure. So the warranty on the machines is 3 years parts and labor on the entire unit,
Nice.
5 year on the compressor, and 5 year parts and labor on the evaporator.
That's a heck of an ice machine warranty right there.
Yeah, yeah, it's good. And to what you were talking about a minute ago, Pat, on service schools, um, if you go to our website and tap on the support widget, if you scroll down, it'll tell you all of our service schools across the country. And we also do online classes. It's either once a month or once every 6 weeks, I think.
Hmm.
And it'll also list that one out as well.
Sweet. And I'll do a favor for everybody listening. I will put those links in the show description so you can find that information find that information right there real easy, and then you can get signed up for school or an online training. That way it makes it easy for everybody to find it.
Nice.
So, what cleaning chemicals do you recommend? Does True have their own line they want the service technicians to use, or just anything that's nickel safe, or how do you guys want your machines cleaned?
Yeah, so we have the ice machine cleaner that you can purchase,
Okay.
but as long as it's nickel safe, then you can use whichever.
So I will tell you, I am very particular when it comes to ice machines. I will only clean with that brand. So I will only use True on a True machine, and the same for any other machine. That way, if something ever does happen, I can prove that, hey, I did use it's tied to that work order. So I can show, hey, I only used this chemical, because I've seen horror stories in the past where guys get, they can't prove what chemical they use and something happens, and I don't want to I don't want to get caught in that, but really I want to take care of my customer's investment. If it's a True machine, I'm going to use True chemicals, and that way I feel safe that I know that I have the proper chemical for that machine, and there's history to back it up. So,
Good for you. We love hearing that too. It is important.
anything else you want to talk about today?
Well, do you have a couple of hours? Because I haven't even gotten started yet.
We can go all day, but I didn't want to keep you. I just wanted you to come on and talk about some of the
Yeah.
benefits and the stuff for the ice machines. I've been trying to get this to happen for a long time. I've been kind of picking on your social media team. I've been tagging them and stuff, and they finally started following me back, and they started interacting. And I'm glad this could finally happen. I love everything True does. Right outside St. Louis, Missouri, correct?
Yes.
So
Yes.
right outside St. Louis, Missouri, do they make the machines right there? Or
Yes. So we make all of our equipment in Missouri, and we've got inventory across several warehouses across the US, Canada, Latin America, and soon across the pond too.
man, world domination from True ice machines. You heard it here.
Yeah. Well, we take our time and
Mhm.
and do things right. There's a lot at stake if this doesn't work, so we want to make sure that everything's good.
Yeah, I get it. That True name is, it stands for quality and everything else, and you want the ice machines to be the same thing right there with it. So I fully understand it. I appreciate you coming on, taking some time to talk to me today. You've always been a pleasure to speak with and work with, and I was excited to finally get to meet you last week before
Yeah.
last at NAFM. And I look forward to talking to you in the future about anything else you ever want to talk about on True Ice.
Okay. Thanks, Pat. I appreciate it. It was good visiting with you.
All right, thank you, and have a good day.
You too. Thanks.
Bye. If you guys would, please consider subscribing, rating, and reviewing the podcast. It really helps us grow and helps us know which direction to move in. Also, if you have any suggestions for guests, please email me at commercialkitchenchronicles@gmail.com. Or if you want to be a guest, email me. Love to have you guys on. Thanks a lot. See you next week.